Él nos va a hablar sobre cómo podemos usar HTML no nada más para quedarnos dentro de las computadoras, sino también para aportar a Firefox OS, que es este nuevo sistema operativo móvil que espero que ya todos conozcan. Entonces vamos a darle la bienvenida a Frédéric. Nuevamente otro aplauso.
Thanks. I understood nothing, but I heard my name once or twice. So let me know if I speak too loud. I'm not used to speak with a mic because I have a really loud voice. So my name is Frédéric Harper. I'm from Canada, and this is my second time in Mexico. Really happy to be here. Quite sad that I don't have time to visit Mexico City because I need to go back home by Friday. But I had a blast last time in Guadalajara, so glad to be here. So I'm a senior technical evangelist at Mozilla. What does that mean? Basically is my job is to give love to developers. It's really to help developers being successful with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Firefox OS. Let me know if I speak too fast. Let me know if there's something you don't understand. I have a translator with me.
Cualquier cosa, igual les voy a decir ahorita como el resumen de lo que dijo. Si no entienden cualquier cosa, yo les puedo aclarar más lo que está pasando, ¿sale? Entonces, por el momento nos acaba de decir que está triste, que no va a poder visitar México como quisiera, y básicamente él está aquí para ayudarnos precisamente con todo este tipo de desarrollo, tanto en HTML, JavaScript, en todas estas tecnologías que nos ayudan para Firefox OS. Entonces, si tienen alguna duda, por favor levanten la mano sin dudas, ¿va?
Are you gonna do this?
They raise their hand.
Okay, perfect. So if you're on Twitter, feel free to use @fharper if you want to tweet. Even in Spanish, I'm going to use a translator after to know what you said. My presentation on outofcomfortzone.net. So this is my personal blog. Everything's going to be there. So if there is something you don't remember, something you didn't get, everything's going to be online. So I'm really sorry. I hope it's good. I use Google Translator. I really don't speak Spanish. It's so sad. I'm French. I speak French. This is my mother tongue. And I learned English a couple of years ago. So next is to learn Spanish because I'm really sad. It took same thing to find the auditorium, so that would have helped me a lot if I would have been able to speak Spanish. So sorry about that. I hope you're going to enjoy the conference, even if everything is in English, but I think that was kind of the topic this week, mostly English speaker, I think. So today, I'm going to talk about mainly Firefox OS. I'm going to introduce Firefox OS to you. This is a new platform. This is available in Mexico. And how many of you are developers working or actually studying to create application, web application, mobile application? Some of you, yeah, okay. So what you're going to see, or even when you're working on your project, is that sometimes you have that question about, hey, I want to build that really nice mobile application. Should I use HTML? Should I use web technology? Or should I go native and use iOS or Objective-C to create iOS application, or use Java to create Android application? And when you're going to go on the market, the job market, you're going to see that it's a question your customers will have quite often. Your manager, your boss, and well, we need to create an application. Which technology should we use? Most of the time, the answer will be native application. And since HTML5 is there, it's that kind of sumo fight, I think, is really, okay, don't know what technology I'm going to use. And most of the time, as I said, that's going to be native application because it's faster, because you're going to have access to hardware. You're going to have access to things you don't have access right now with HTML5. But that made me sad. That made me really sad because HTML5 is a really good technology. HTML is a good technology, but when HTML5 came, it was even better. We had new features, we had new things that people can use, that developers can use, so they can build great mobile application and web application. And it should be the answer. But sometimes, when we think about HTML5, when we think about HTML, it's kind of like, yeah, good technology, but it's not there yet. I prefer to create native application. I prefer to use Objective-C because that's going to, as I said, that's going to be faster. I'm going to have access to more functionality that I don't have access with HTML5. And I agree. As much as I love web technology, as much as I love HTML, CSS, JavaScript, sometimes going native is like the end story. This is what you need to do. But as I said, it makes me sad because I'm not a big fan of statistics. But when we see those kind of statistics, it's always about billion devices, no matter if it's 38, 40, 50 billion devices. This is always a lot of the devices that will be connected to the internet. And when we think about those devices, like in that, with those statistics, they said 38 billion devices, that's going to be connected in the next 6 years. So this is a lot of devices, but think about how many devices you have right now. You may have your laptop connected to the internet, to Wi-Fi. You may have mobile devices, a smartphone. You may have an e-reader. There is a lot of the devices connected out there. But if we remove what we call the Internet of Things, the objects that you don't really interact with, I have a podometer called Fitbit. I don't know if you have this here, but during a day and just trying to motivate me to move a little more instead of just always stay in front of my computer. So I don't really interact with that device, but still, it's connecting with Bluetooth on my phone and sending data over the internet. So those are the devices that are connected. But if we remove those think about what we call the phablet. Think about many devices like the laptops that we have. Think about e-readers. Think about television, Xbox, PlayStation. They can all connect to the internet in different ways. And what's the common point of all those devices? It's the browser. With all those devices, you can access the web with the browsers. Sometimes it's not the best experience ever. As an example, I have a Kindle device to read my ebooks. There is a browser on it. I can go on the web. Yeah, not the best experience ever, but still, I can connect to the internet. I can access data on the browser, on the web. So all those devices are there. And the common point, as I said, is the browser. So it's why you need to think about HTML. Because when you build native application, it's only for one platform. If you build the iOS application, that's going to work only on iOS devices. If you build an Android application, that's going to work only on Android devices. So what I want to do today is to introduce you how HTML5 will evolve. How HTML5 is evolving right now with a platform called Firefox OS. So I want to take that HTML5 that you like, that you may not like, that you may think that is the future or not, and make it something really amazing, something awesome, something that you will have access to feature functionalities that you really need to create good application. And not just saying, hey, when I use HTML, it's just to build application working in a browser on the desktop. No, you can use now HTML technology to build application that's going to work on many, many devices. So what you deserve is a great platform. So let me introduce you a little bit Firefox OS, more on the story side and some facts. 3 years ago, we decided that, hey, we need to create an OS using web technology. As Mozilla, we're a nonprofit organization. We're not there to make money. And the idea was to give access to the web to more people. Give access to the web to those people that are using feature phone. Create an OS that will work well, that won't use proprietary software, and that will give a really great experience to the users. So 1 year ago-ish, we launched the first Firefox OS device. What is great with those devices is that the OS is based in HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Everything you see on the phone, that goes from the telephony application to the browser to the Facebook application to the marketplace application, everything is built with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's open source. How many of you like GitHub or using Git? Yeah. So you can go on GitHub right now. I see a lot of smile. You can go on GitHub and you can find all the source of Firefox OS, of the visual part, Gaia, of the OS. Everything is open source. Everything is online. You can go there. You can add some feature. You can fix some bugs. You can just see how it's working behind the hood, because you want to be sure that you're going to have a secure OS. You want to know what's behind the hood. So you can do this because it's open source. We launched in many countries in the first 1 year. So now Firefox OS devices are available in 26 countries. They're available a lot more in many more countries when you buy devices on the web. And it's the same thing in Mexico. We have 2 or 3 devices available in Mexico that you can buy to your local shop. It's primarily targeted for emerging market or low-end market. It does not mean that all those devices will only be for emerging market, but most of them, they're there to give an opportunity, give an alternative to people. At least in Canada. I'm from Canada. We're quite lucky. Yes, sometimes we pay a lot for internet connection, but they're pretty fast. We have access to different phones, going from iPhone OS was really to give access to phones that are really inexpensive, smartphones that are working great, that have application, and that give really a great experience to the users. So it's why it's primarily aimed at emerging market and low-end markets. On the other side, creating any hardware. We only work on the OS. So we work with partners to be sure that there is phones out there. We work with partners to be sure that people will be able to buy those phones in different local shops. And there is more countries coming soon, because it's only the beginning. The first phones, as I said, launched 1 year ago. So I think it's a really good beginning. It's a really, really good beginning. So we have many devices out there, depending on the countries, depending on where you live, depending on devices you can buy online or not. But there's devices like the Alcatel One Touch Fire, the ZT OpenSea. We also have the Huawei device, the LG Fireweb, and we also have what we call the Flame device that you can buy online. So there's many devices out there, so it's not just about one devices. There's many OEM that are working on those devices. As an example, you can buy the ZT Open on the web. So it's on eBay. They're still new. It's not used phone. It's just new phone. ZT use eBay to sell those phones. And as an example, you can get those for $100. So should I say like 1,000 pesos, kind of ish? Yeah. So it's pretty inexpensive. It's really affordable, and you still have a great experience. It's not because it's a low-cost devices that you don't have those kind of great experiences. Of course, you cannot compare those phones to maybe the latest iPhone 5 that you brought for 1,000 bucks. So it's not the same kind of hardware, but still, for $100, it's a really good devices. You can also buy that devices if you're a developer. You can go online to everbuying.com, and this is one of the newest devices. One of the newest device we have. It's mostly for developers. Users can buy those. It's a little more expensive, but it's a really, really strong phone. It's a more high-end device, and really interesting if you want to test your application or if you just want to use Firefox OS. So you can buy that phone no matter where you are in the world. So you can buy it from Mexico. They will ship for Mexico. It's a little bit, as I said, it's a little bit expensive, a little more expensive, but you can buy it from everywhere. There's also something new that we launched a couple of days, I would say weeks ago. It's the NTEX Cloud FX. It's a device that costs $33, so 330 pesos, kind of. So it's even more inexpensive than the one at 1,000 pesos, because it's still a smartphone. You still have access to application. We did a lot of great work to optimize those phones to be sure that that's going to work well. Of course, again, we're talking about a phone that you can get for $33. Right now, it's only available in India. So it's launched in the Indian market a couple of days ago, but it's a really great device, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to see those devices elsewhere really soon. So when it comes to Firefox OS, enough of statistics. We still have a marketplace. So it's not because it's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's not because it's web technology that you don't have access to application. So you can go to the marketplace, and you can download Facebook, you can download Twitter, you can download Connect A2 that give you access to WhatsApp. So we have every application, most of the application that people looking under the devices. So for the users, it's pretty good because they're going to have the same experience as any other devices. And for the developer, it's good because you still have a way to promote your application. But all the process, all the marketplace, all the ecosystem is open, like what Mozilla is used to do. So you don't have to publish your application to the marketplace if you don't want to, but you can do it, and we highly suggest you to do it because that's going to be the first place that user will look for your application. Because we use web technology, the web is the platform. Firefox OS is the only device that have the adaptive app search. So actually, what's going to happen is for something specific. I don't know, maybe you're a big fan of the U2 music group, so you go in the adaptive app search, you type U2, your phone experience will change. You're going to have access to applications that are not even installed on your phone because the web is the platform. You're going to have a direct access. So if I type U2, or in that example, if I type soccer and I go and I click on Wikipedia application, even if it's not installed on my phone, will open and will already show the article about soccer. So a pretty good way to have more visibility if you are web developers, and it's a really good feature. It's a unique feature that you don't see in any other phone, a good feature for users. So what is the Firefox OS application? I'm still saying, hey, it's using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but what does that mean? So basically, you have two types of application you can create. You can create what we call the hosted application. So you basically put your Firefox OS application on your own server. You can use GitHub pages. You can put it everywhere you want. You're going to host yourself your application. So you're going to be responsible of having your code somewhere on some server. You can also create package app. And this is probably what you're used to do if you're creating other mobile application on other platform. This is basically a zip file containing images, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, sound file, everything you need to run your application. In both cases, you can submit your application to the marketplace. When it comes to the hosted application, that's going to be like a link to your application. So user will still be able to find your application in the marketplace, but when they're gonna install, where they're gonna use your application, that's gonna use your server resources. With a package app, you're gonna have to submit your application to the marketplace, depending on the API that you're gonna use, and we're gonna host your application like any other marketplace. Things you need to know is that you don't have to pay us to be a developer for Firefox OS. On some other platforms, you have to pay a fee to be able to publish your application. It's not the case with Firefox OS. It's free. The only time we're going to take some fees is that if you sell your application, we're going to retain 20%-ish depending on where you live, because we have what we call the operator payment system. So users that are going to buy your application will be able to buy your application without a credit card, and they're going to be billed on their cell phone operator bills. So we're going to take some fees because it costs us money to do this. But in any other cases, we're not taking money from you. To build your application, you can do what I call vanilla HTML5 or vanilla HTML. We use HTML5 so often. It's basically just HTML, plain HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can use any libraries you want, any JavaScript libraries you use, jQuery, Ember.js, name it, any libraries. If it's working in a browser, that should work in Firefox OS. So you can use those libraries. And you can use what makes, in my own opinion, Firefox OS really, really amazing, the API that we had on top of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to give you the access that you need to build your application. So I'm going to talk more about those APIs right after. So right now, if you have an HTML, CSS, JavaScript application, it's working in a browser, the only thing you have to do is to add a manifest file. And this is basically a JSON file containing the information about your application. So the version number, what is the name of your application, what is the launch path. So which file should Firefox OS launch when you're going to launch your application. The description, the icons, because you want to submit your application to the marketplace, you're going to need some specific icons, information about yourself, your team or your company, and some permission, if you need some permission in your application, because it's using web technology that is not secure. So in that case, I'm asking the user the permission to get his geolocation. And the user will have to accept or deny my request when the application will use that feature. So this is basically what you have to do. You have an HTML application right now. You create a manifest file. It's a JSON file, simple text stuff. And you have a Firefox OS application. So let me show you how to do this quickly. Everybody is following right now? Yeah? Good.
Si alguien tiene dudas.
I think it's a better idea to ask this in Spanish. Sorry? Do you want me to do a real-time translate? Oh, I think it's good. Okay. Unless people want it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run an application I have on my desktop. How many of you know the project To Do MVC? It's a project on GitHub. And this is a simple to-do list. Let's start this in my browser. This is a simple to-do list. And basically, this is a project that some people at Google and other companies started because if you're a web developer, you probably know that there is a lot of libraries out there. Sometimes too much. Like there is new libraries every week. Maybe every day. So it's a little bit crazy. It's not always easy to follow up with all those libraries, but you still want to learn them. You still want to know how you can use them and if it makes sense to use them for different projects. So To Do MVC is a project you can go on GitHub. And what they did, they replicate the same to-do list application using different frameworks. So after this, it's easy to compare those frameworks, easy to compare those libraries by using that project. So what I did, I just copy and paste the code for the one using Ember.js. And as you can see, it's a little to-do list. So I can have task and Keynote on Firefox OS. And I say, OK, Keynote. I'm already in Mexico City. I don't want to do my Keynote anymore. So this is just a simple to-do list. Working well, working in a browser. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to do that web application. I'm going to take that web application and create a Firefox OS application. So what I'm going to do, because I'm lazy, I have a folder on my desktop called Firefox OS. This is a small project that I use quite often when I do demos, when I start a new Firefox OS application. And this is just a kind of a boilerplate or empty or dummy project. So there is nothing there. Empty, if I can go to the Ember.js stuff here. So it's pretty empty. There is nothing in the index file. It's not opening. Oh, it's there. So there is not a lot of things. Oh, not Ember.js. Sorry. Firefox Starter. There is nothing in the index, just loading empty JavaScript file. And I have some images, some icons, still CSS file. Nothing is there except the most important file, my manifest. So a really simple one, version, name of my application, some icons. I don't need any permission. As I said, this is just a starter kit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste all the Ember.js project in that folder. What I could have done is just take Ember.js folder and create the manifest file, but I wanted to have the full experience with the icon, and it's a lot more faster to do this. So what I just basically did is just had some icons and the manifest file. So right now, I already created the Firefox OS application. Isn't it amazing? No, because you don't see it, so you don't believe me. It's okay, it's okay. So what is great with Firefox OS is that no matter the OS you're using, Linux, OS X, Windows, you have access to the tools. First, because it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you don't need specific IDE. You can use whatever makes sense for you, Notepad, Sublime, Visual Studio, Eclipse, TextMate, name it. Everything that gives you the opportunity to write text. You can even use Word if you want. I don't think so, but you can. Don't do this. But actually, you can create application with whatever you want. And you already have the tools because it's everything you need is in Firefox. So you have Firefox, the desktop browser. And I went to Tool, Web Developers, and I have something called the App Manager. So this is where I'm going to manage my application, to either push those applications on a real device, to either use a simulator to test, to debug my application. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add my application that I just created. So I'm going to add that application in my App Manager. What you can see right now is that I still have my manifest file here. This is the information. My application is there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use a simulator to show you my application. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to push the application that I just created to my simulator. So actually, the simulators, they're not part of Firefox. You just need to download them, but they are free add-ons that you add to Firefox. So the links are there. You can download them. It's free. So I'm going to push update. The application will be installed on my phone, on my simulator, sorry. So I'm going to start my application, and I still have my to-do list. So doing demo in Mexico, make friends in Mexico. I'm a social guy. So I still have my to-do list. The demo is almost done, so I'm going to click there. It's done, and as I said, it's the same application that I had in the browser, but now it's working in Firefox OS. Is it the best application you ever saw? If you said yes, if you say yes, I'm just going off the stage and finish my presentation right now. So of course, this is probably not the best application you ever saw on a platform, on a mobile platform. What you need to keep in mind is that I told you that to create Firefox OS application, you just need to add the manifest file. And this is basically what I did. And in theory, I had a Firefox OS application. The only thing is that the experience was really, really not good because I had to scroll up, scroll down, zoom in, zoom out. It was not adapted for a mobile phone. So like any other application you're going to have to create, you're going to have to be sure that that application will render well on any smartphones. So in my case, what I should have done after added the manifest file, I should have maybe used responsive web design to be sure that the web application that I have will render well on different screen size. That was the first thing that I had to do. The other thing that I should have done is to be sure that my application should integrate a little more with Firefox OS. With some application, you don't have to do this. With other type of application, maybe you want to add some specific feature. Maybe you want to connect a little more with the hardware. So I don't know, for a to-do list application, maybe I want to use the push notification API to be sure that if I had a to-do list, a to-do item that I really need to do tomorrow at noon, my phone will remember me that's going to happen. So of course, as I said, you need to add the manifest file. And I would say that it's the only step. Just as a remember, you need to be sure that your application will render well on the phone because it's probably an application that was working in a browser. And you need to be sure that you want to give a great experience to the user. So maybe you want to integrate a little more in the platform. So that was the basic stuff. Now, when it comes to Firefox OS, I told you HTML5 is a great technology, but maybe there are some things that are missing. Some APIs that you would like to have to create your application to do a better integration with the platform. So we have something called the web APIs. So those are APIs that we had on top of HTML, CSS, JavaScript to be sure that you're going to be able to access to some hardware functionalities. So I quickly introduce you to 3 levels of API that we have. So the first one is the regular API. So those right now, those APIs are working for Firefox OS. For those of you that know Mozilla, our goal is not to make proprietary API. Our goal is not to make those APIs so they only work on Firefox OS. Right now, it's the hard decision that we had to take because we wanted to create those APIs to give a great experience. But we're working with the standard body, we're working with the W3C that are managing the standard around HTML to be sure that those APIs will be part of the standards. So other browser vendor, other people using web technology will be able to use those APIs. And if at some point the standard change and there's a new implementation, we're going to change Firefox OS to be sure that Firefox OS will not be just about Firefox OS, but will be about web standard. So when it's come to regular API, we have different API. Alarm API, ambient light sensor, Archive API. I'm not going to read those. Push API, screen orientation, web activities. There's many APIs there for you. And what is great is that because they're regular API, you can use those APIs in package app. You can also use those API in hosted application. So either one you're building, you can use those applications. We don't have to verify or certify your application because you're not using things that could harm the device of the user, that could do some silly tricks with those API. Let me show you the ambient light sensor. Right now, with HTML, if you want to access the ambient light sensor, and you know those things that looks a little bit like a camera on top of your phone, they're detecting the light around the phone. So that could be useful if you're, as an example, you're building a kind of reader or RSS feed application, and your background is, maybe it's white on like black text with a white background. It's working well on the day. But if I want to read this when I'm in my bed with the light closed, it's a little hard for the eyes. So maybe I want to detect the light around my phones. And if it's really low, I may want to automatically change the background to something more less harmful, like a black background. So right now, it's not something I can do with HTML. It's something I could do with native application on other platform. But by using the ambient light sensor API, with one line of JavaScript, or actually 2 lines, I'm going to add an event listener on device light. And in that case, that's going to call my anonymous function, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to get the value of event. So I'm going to say event.value. That's going to give me a value in lux. And that's going to go from 0, like there is really no light, probably it's in your pocket, to 10,000 of value. And 10,000 is like, oh my God, I'm going to be blind soon. It's too much light. So by using those values, in that case, I'm just showing the values in the console, but I would be able to do something more complex. So let me show you how it's working. So what is great also is that you don't really need a real device to build Firefox OS application. You can use the simulator. But in some cases, like with the ambient light sensor, I don't have the choice to use a real device. So what I'm going to do, I have a real Firefox OS phone here. It's connected to my computer. I'm going to use an application to show you what's on my screen. This application is called Droid Add Screen. What you're going to see is a really slow refreshing rate. It's not Firefox OS. It's the application. It's made in Java, and I don't know why the refresh rate is really slow. But still, if you find it slow, keep in mind it's not Firefox OS. I have real device. You can test those after. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another application available on GitHub. It's called the Firefox OS boilerplate application. If I go in my folder here, it's an application that my colleague Robert Nyman created, and we are all contributing to make it sure that there's going to be a full-fledged application. And actually, it's a boilerplate, not in the sense of a starter kit. It's mostly an application that had any web API, any Firefox OS functionality to it. So it's easy. It's easier as a developer to take that application, see some working example, and be able to pinpoint in the code which code is used to create those functionalities. So sometimes it's great to see documentation online. If you're like me, you like to see a real example, how it's working, what that's going to do on the phone. And by using Firefox OS boilerplate app, it's a good application to do so. So it's available on GitHub. Feel free to use it. Feel free to help us if there is anything missing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to connect to my phone. So I have an option here right now. It's not just a simulator because my phone ain't connected. I can connect to, they call it full key on. So I'm going to connect to my phone. I have my phone. Oh, I put cancel. I'm going to click OK to give access to the app manager to my phone. So now it's connected, and I'm going to do the same. Oh, I'm on my phone. I'm always trying to move things on my screen. So I'm going to push my application to my phone by clicking Update. The same thing I did with the simulator. So my Firefox OS boilerplate will be installed on my phone. I'm going to run that application. And as you can see, it's not the most sexiest application you ever saw. But this is a great application to see a lot of functionality that are part of those web API and to test those to be sure that are working. So I'll go to ambient light. And what you're going to see, when I'm going to zoom, because it's pretty small, you're going to see at some point the ambient light. Oh, okay, it's coming. Oh, I don't have a lot of light near here, so you're going to see if I put the phone near my screen, you're going to see the value change to 94 lux, so it's still pretty low. If I put my hand on the phone, I'm going to go to 0 lux. So again, by using JavaScript, I was able to do this. So it's pretty cool. If I go into Firefox OS application to show you how it's done, the Firefox OS boilerplate, I can go into JavaScript here, the web hat. If I'm looking for ambient light, you're going to see that it's only, look, there's a little more line of code than in my example, but the idea here was that actually what we did is that we did a query selector to get the button and all those things, but the idea is really having the on-click here. So it's like if I had an event listener on-click for the ambient light button, and I'm say, hey, window on device light, call this anonymous function again, go get some event.value, and that gave me my value in logs. So this is the power of Web API. And there is a lot more you can do. It's not just about ambient light. It's really about all those APIs that I just shown you. So those are regular API. And maybe the ambient light example is not the most exciting things you ever saw, but I really like it because it's visual, it's related to hardware on the phone, it's something you cannot do right now, but it's something, actually it's not true, it's something you can do right now with Firefox OS. There's also the battery status API. This is another regular API. Right now, by using HTML, you cannot access the battery status. So again, by using one line of code, so by doing navigator.battery, I'm going to be able to have that battery object. And I'm going to be able to get many information. Is my phone charging? Is my phone how much time before it's fully charged? Or how much time before it's fully discharged? So I can have different event listener. That's going to be interesting. Maybe I'm creating a game and I want to be hello? Okay. I want to be sure that if the battery is running out, is nearly dead, I want to be sure that I'm going to save the game. So it's a good API that I can use to be sure that my user that play my game won't lose anything, won't lose any effort that they put by playing my game. So I can show you another example again on my phone. Still using the boilerplate. So I'm going to have the battery status, check battery. And you can see now that my phone is fully charged, 100%, probably because it's connected since this morning, and my battery is charging. So if I would disconnect my phone right now, you wouldn't be able to see anything on the screen, but you would see on the phone that the battery charging would be at no. So again, using JavaScript, I'm able to use the battery status. And this one is a great example because it's something we worked on for Firefox OS. It's something that is in the standard right now. It's still in the draft mode, but it's also something that you can use in the latest beta version of Chrome. So if you use Chrome Canary, you're going to be able to use the battery status API. And this is exactly what I said a couple of minutes ago. We are working to be sure that those APIs won't be only available in Firefox OS. Actually, our goal, my goal, is not to have you create Firefox OS application. I want you to create web application that will be able to use those APIs, that will work on different devices. I don't want those applications to work only on Firefox OS, but right now it's the case because we created many APIs. We have some privileged APIs, like the browser API, the contact APIs, the device storage, TCP socket APIs. So what is different with those APIs is that you can only use those APIs on package app. You cannot use those APIs on hosted application. What does that mean? Is that you will have to submit your application to the marketplace. We will have to certify your application. We will look at the code, and we will be sure that you're not doing some evil things with those APIs. So this is a way to manage security when it comes to APIs. So there is a browser API, and it's kind of meta because Firefox OS is working on web technology. It's working on top of Gecko, that is our engine running Firefox. That is the engine that is that understands on all that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that render that code to create what you see when we use Firefox OS. Inside Firefox OS, there is still a browser, so you can use the browser to go check any websites. But there is also the browser API. So there is a lot of browser thing when it comes to Firefox OS. But that API is pretty interesting because if you're building an application that needs OAuth authentication, like Twitter, or I'm building a Remember the Milk application. I don't know if you use this. It's another to-do list. Maybe I have something with to-do list. But I don't want to have the username password of the users. But I want to have access to their list. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an iframe, and it's probably the only time that I'm really happy to use an iframe. And the magic keyword is going to be the mouse browser there. So by using the mouse browser keyword, I'm going to be able to use the browser API. So I'm going to be able to have an event listener to all those things. So what's going to happen in my example? The user opened my application. I point them to Remember the Milk website in my iframe. I ask the user to connect to his account. I'm not getting the username password. You just need to connect to his account, and you need to authorize me to access his data. So what's going to happen? Remember the Milk will send me a link with a token that will give me access to those data. So in my case, what I did, I used the mouse browser location change listener. And when the location changed, I know that Remember the Milk sent me back a URL with the token. I just need to take the parameter, take the token, and after this, I can access the Remember the Milk application of that user without knowing the username and password. So this is the same thing you're doing when you connect to a website and they ask you to have access to Facebook, to have access to Twitter. In reality, you give access to those platforms, but you never give to that services to Facebook anymore. You just remove the access. You don't even have to change your username and password. There is a third level, the certified API level. There's a lot more API right there, but this one is a little bit tricky because you cannot use those API right now. It's only for OEM, so people that build those phones, or OS application. But it's still good to know that they're existing, because at some point they may move from certified to privilege or from certified to general API, to standard API. But there are some APIs like the camera API, network status, the setting APIs, and there's other ways that you can use those APIs. There is something that we call the web activities. So the web activities give you access to some part of the hardware that you would not have access because it's API. Those APIs are part of the certified API. There's the browse, configure, dial, open, new mail, SMS, contact, the pick web activities. You can use those web activities in hosted application, package application. So there is no security issue with those web activities. As an example, probably the one you will use the most if you build Firefox OS application is the pick activity. So in that case, I need a picture because my application need a picture. Maybe I'm doing kind of Instagram-ish application, or I just need a picture. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, okay, new Muzz activity. The name of my activity is a pic activity, and I want a JPEG. I want a JPEG. So what's going to happen when I'm going to write that JavaScript code? You're going to see the screen on the right. So the user will see that screen. You're going to have to choose either a wallpaper image, either an image already in the gallery, or use the camera to take a picture. At that point, you're going to receive that images. You're going to have to handle this. So I'm going to say, hey, on my activity, if it's successful, I'm going to use that images to do whatever I want. If it's not successful, it's probably because the user clicked cancel. So I don't have to know where that image comes from. I just need that image. So this is a way for us to be sure that having access to those part of the hardware, to those pictures, is going to be secure. But at the same time, the user will have to do an interaction to be sure you're going to have access to those things. This is the same thing for the dial application. I don't want any application to be able to make phone calls for me. Like, no. So it's why we have that dial web activity. So again, the same thing as the pic. I'm going to do new Muzz activity. I'm going to say, hey, this time I want to do a dial, and I want to call that phone number. What's going to happen? The telephony application will open. The phone number will be there, but no phone call will be made. The user will have to push the green button or cancel. So again, I will save some step for the user by doing this in my application, but I won't be able to do any phone call instead of my user. My user will be able to do it. I'm also able to be an handler. So now I use those web activities, but I can be the application that will process those activities. So in my case, remember the JSON file, the web config, the configuration file was talking at the beginning. So this is really important because you're going to be able to put this in your JSON file, and you're going to say, hey, if there are pic activities requesting either JPEG or PNG, I can handle this. And if that's happening, if my application is choose, so remember the screen where I use the pic activities. If you register your application as an application that can handle that pic activities, your application will be listed in that screen. So in that case, when your application is going to open, you're going to need to verify, hey, is my application has been opened because of activities? If it's the case, if it's pic activities, yes, okay, I can send a picture. So there is a way for me to handle those activities. And what is great for developers is that if you do this, that means that your application may be used more often. By using those web activities right now, by creating Firefox OS application, we're still working on it. It's working right now, but it's still kind of like beta phase. Those Firefox OS application you create will work on Android. The only thing you need to know is that you need to have Firefox browser application install on Android, because Android does not understand all the code you created. So the Firefox browser on Android will understand those, and they will work like any other application. So you build for one platform, and that's going to work in the second platform. So another way to get way more visibility with your HTML application. On top of that, that's going to work on the desktop browser. Windows, OS X, Linux, you're going to be able to use those Firefox OS application in the browser. So really cool features. We're still working on those. Some of them are working. It's not perfect yet, but it's coming. So that means a lot more visibility for application you created for Firefox OS. So how to start? First, maybe why to start. You already have HTML application right now. You may have PhoneGap application. We have PhoneGap support, so you can publish Firefox OS application with your PhoneGap or Cordova application. You already have an application working in the browser, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or you want to create another one. So of course, you can create those applications. That's going to work on Firefox OS. you're going to reach a new market. You're going to reach people that don't use iOS. You're going to reach people that don't use Android. As I said, you're going to reach more people because those applications will work on Android, they will work on desktop. But there is also some monetization process behind it. It's not because it's the term from Mozilla that you have to create your application only open source. You can have closed source. There is no issue. It's not because it's Mozilla that you have to give your application for free. You can sell your application. Actually, we don't force you to use any selling system, any selling services. You can use the services that make sense for you. As long as it's working in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can integrate this in your application. So you can sell your application. You can create a free application with ads. You can create a free application with in-app purchase. So there is a lot of ways for you to get some money, to reach a new audience, to reach new people. And what is great is that because Firefox OS is mostly for emerging market, those devices are made to help people going from feature phone to smartphone. There's a really great opportunity for you to do this. So as I show you, that should be magical. You should be able to take your HTML, CSS application, add the manifest file, and it's working on Firefox OS. You may have to tweak the UI a little bit. You may have to tweak the experience a little bit. You may want to think about responsive web design. You may want to have a better integration in the platform, but still, it should not be that hard. As I told you, you can use many libraries you want, all the libraries you want. If it's working in Firefox in the browser, that should work in Firefox OS. As I told you, there is Cordova and PhoneGap support. So right now, today, with the latest version of both of those, you can publish a Firefox OS application also. Most of the APIs are created for Cordova. We're still missing, I don't remember the number, but we're still missing some of them, but the most popular are already implemented in Cordova and in PhoneGap also. Those are the APIs that we have right now. And there is some new also that I did not update, but it's going pretty well. I'm working closely with many developer one-to-one, many PhoneGap and Cordova developers, and they all have the APIs that they need. So it's a good opportunity for you to target another platform with minimal efforts. We also have a program called the App for Flame, or Flame for App, I never remember. It's for anybody already mostly using PhoneGap, using HTML, or already a Firefox OS application you're working on. So if you go to that link, it's case sensitive, all lowercase, j.mp-mozflame. There's a form there. You need to subscribe to that form, enter some information about your application, and because we have a limited number of phones to give, we're going to select some winners to give some phone. And after this, either myself or my colleague JU, we're going to be there to be sure that your application is going to work well on the Firefox OS device. So that's not going to be that device. I should change the images. That's going to be the new Flame device. So really, really good device you want to have. As I said, you don't really need a device to test your application, but it's always good to have a real device to do so. I show you quickly. There's the App Manager and the simulator. So it's really simple to start to create a Firefox OS application to test those. There is also inside of Firefox, the Firefox Web Developer Tools, a little bit like the same you see in Google, a little bit like Firebug, but it's not Firebug, it's inside Firefox. It's good for any web application you want to develop, but it's also really well integrated with Firefox OS. So I'm going to talk a little more about those in the workshop later, but just know that they are there. It's part of Firefox. For any documentation about Firefox OS, but also about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Firefox, Firefox for Android, any library or stuff Mozilla is working on, any open source, open standard stuff, when it's about the open web. And maybe I'm saying that because I'm working on Mozilla, but this is one of the best documentation online. It's an open wiki, so you can contribute to it. It's called MDN, the Mozilla Developer Network. All the information you need to build your application, to port your application is there. There's also Stack Overflow. How many of you know Stack Overflow? So it's probably like the resources online, the forum for technical people, for developers. So there is a tag Firefox OS, Firefox-OS. We are monitoring that tag. So if you have any question, any problem, any technical issue, go on Stack Overflow, ask the question there. Of course, you can send me an email, but I would prefer you use Stack Overflow for many reasons. We're trying to build a public FAQ. So if someone else has the same problem as you, they're going to find the answer. I'm not the only one looking for those forums. There's many people in Mozilla doing so, and other people that are not part of Mozilla that just know the answers that are there to help. So if I'm on a plane traveling to another conference and I'm not able to answer your email, you may get faster answer there. But if you're kind of shy or you're not too sure about posting your things online, feel free to send me an email also, or feel free to ask your question on Stack Overflow and send me the link of your question after. So if I have the time, if I'm the faster one, I'm going to answer your question. I told you Firefox OS boilerplate application, the application I used to show you the live demo of using Web API. It's available on GitHub. Feel free to use it. Feel free to try it. Feel free to use it as a boilerplate to start your application. If you see a bug, if there's features missing, it's on GitHub. You know how it's working. Do it. Help us. So it's only the beginning. As I said, we launched the platform nearly 1 year ago. I'm really, really happy and excited about where we are right now, but it's only the beginning. That means that we're going to see more countries with Firefox OS. That means that we're going to see more devices. That means that we're going to see more features for the users, but we're going to see more APIs for the developers. Think about the calendar API, the web NFC. Right now it's there, but it's only certified, the web USB. So you're going to have access at some point to those APIs. We are working on those. It's a big part of what Mozilla is doing today. Firefox OS, it's really one of the most important projects we have right now with Firefox. So next time you're going to build a mobile application. Next time you're going to think about maybe using HTML for more than just desktop application. Think about HTML. Think about CSS. Think about JavaScript. The technologies are there. It's working well. If you do a good job as developers, they're really amazing technology that can be as fast as any other native application. And on top of that, with everything I've shown you today, with those web APIs, with everything you can use in Firefox OS, you have everything you need to create great application using HTML. You have everything you need to create great experiences for your users. So some resources. I won't leave that slide too long. Everything will be online. As I said, you only need to go to my blog. I will put the link again. I will put the slides online. Maybe not today, worst case, tomorrow. Those slides will be online and the recording of the presentation. If you're planning to port or build a Firefox app, let me know. I want to know. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know the great experience that you had. I want to know what went wrong, what's are missing, what we're doing wrong. I want to know those things. I want to know when your application is going to be in the marketplace, because I want to see those applications in the marketplace. And most important, I want to be there to help you. It's part of my job, but even if it was not part of my job, I still love to help people. So let me know, send me an email, ping me on Twitter, ping me on Facebook, ping me on LinkedIn, name it. I'm usually there. If you understood what I said for the last 1 hour, if you like what I said for the last 1 hour, please join us. I don't know if that's still going to be at 11 o'clock because we started a little bit late, but we're going to have a workshop, kind of ish more hackathons, because it's really short in time. We only have 3 hours, but that's going to be for developers who actually have an HTML application or a PhoneGap application, or even people that want to start new application. Come there. We have 3 hours. I'm going to do a small presentation, like 15 minutes, about how to use the simulator, the app manager, for people that were not at the presentation, but also how to use the developer tools to be sure that you're going to be able to debug your application, your Firefox OS application. And I'm going to have, I think I have 10 devices, 10 Flame devices, so those really cool devices for developer that I've shown you before. I have those devices, so you're going to be able to test your application on those, and you're going to be able to keep them. Not everybody, but at the end of the workshop, maybe after 2 hours and a half, for the last 3, I will ask some of you that wants to show what you did in the last 2 hours, some of you that just want to show your HTML application that you work with, even if it's not working in the simulator, even if it's not working in the browser. We only have 2 hours. Even if it's not that hard to create a Firefox OS application, you may need more than 2 hours because you're still new to the platform. And if you show your application to the rest of the people in the room, I'm going to draw those phones because I don't want to come back in Canada with those phones. I want to leave those phones here and give those phones to some developers that will publish those Firefox OS application to the marketplace. So I have no idea where that's going to be, but that's probably going to be written on the board outside of the auditorium. So that's going to be at 11 o'clock. Join us. I'm going to have other colleague from Mozilla that's going to be there with me to help you, and you're going to be able to answer to ask your question in Spanish to other people, not to me. So, if you have any question, anything around HTML, CSS, JavaScript, around Firefox OS, around Firefox, this is not my expertise, but I can put you in contact with the right person. Feel free to send me an email. I'm an old guy. I'm still using emails. So send me an email to fharper@mozilla.com. I'm a huge Twitter user. I like Twitter, maybe too much. Maybe it's not LT. But if you're on Twitter, feel free to follow me. Feel free to send me something on Twitter, some feedbacks about the presentation at fharper. If you like technical blog posts, hacks.mozilla.org. This is the blog that our technical evangelist team are managing, and many engineers at Mozilla, many technical evangelists were posting technical blog posts around HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Firefox OS, Firefox for Android, Firefox, any libraries were working on .NET. I have some blog posts sometimes in French. Sometimes in English, or most of the time, as I like to say, in Franglish, because my English is not perfect. But as I said, if you have to remember one link, out of comfortzone.net, it's not more about my blog post than the fact that I will publish those slides and the recording of my talk after. So that's it. Thanks. I don't know if we have the time for a question. And you can ask those in Spanish and we'll translate because I won't understand. I'm so sorry.
¿Alguien tiene preguntas para Frédéric?
What he said.
Okay, good morning. What do we need to bring at 11 o'clock?
Sorry, I totally...
You can say in Spanish.
¿Qué debemos de traer a las 11 para lo de...
¿Al taller?
Ajá.
He's asking what he needs to the workshop.
What he needs to
bring to the workshop.
Oh, okay. Good questions. So the question was, what do I need to bring to the workshop? Actually, just your computer. So you just need a computer, and that would be nice if you already have Firefox installed. And the simulator, I think you can go on the website for this conference, and I put all the information there. I'm just not sure if they put it online, but I sent all the information. But if you have Firefox already installed, you're going to have the app manager, you're going to have the tools, and if you can download the Firefox OS simulator working in the app manager, that will save you some time. Because we only have 3 hours, and on that 3 hours, I may talk for 15-30 minutes, and we may have 30 minutes at the end to show some demos. So you only have 2 hours. So that's it. Yeah, just your computer, I would say, with Firefox on it.
La respuesta a la pregunta, en caso de que no hayan comprendido, la pregunta era, ¿qué necesitamos traer al taller? Necesitan traer básicamente su computadora y necesitan, de preferencia, necesitan traer el buscador de Firefox. De preferencia puede salvarnos un poco de tiempo si ya traen instalado el emulador de Firefox. Si no, igual se puede usar 15 minutos ahí, pero les va a salvar tiempo y va a ser mejor para el taller si ya lo tienen instalado.
It's exactly what I said.
You trust me.
Où est-ce que je peux le trouver?
I didn't hear.
Où est-ce que je peux les trouver?
Oh, wow. Okay, it's awesome. It was in French. I was expecting something in Spanish and in English. I was like, oh, what's happening? I'm still sleeping. Didn't take my coffee. So where can you find those? Actually, if you go on, Google and you just search for Firefox OS logo, you're gonna have all the information there. So you can download Firefox or just use the search engine that you want. I think it's getfirefox.com or firefox.com. You're gonna be able to download Firefox. And when it comes to the simulator, you may want to wait for the workshop because I'm gonna give you the link to download the app manager. But if you want to do it right now, you can again go on Mozilla Developer Network and search for App Manager. And in that wiki article, you're going to have the link to download the simulator. It looks really complicated when I just tell you this, but I will put links in the workshop.
Bueno, no entendí la pregunta, pero la respuesta era, pues, básicamente lo puedes googlear o puedes buscarlo en el sitio de Firefox. Para el manager necesitas, tal vez sea un poco más recomendable esperar al workshop, al taller, para que si no tienes la experiencia ahí se te puede guiar más y a lo mejor resulta mejor. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Were you laughing at me or? Yeah, I don't know.
I told them I didn't get that question. I don't know French.
Okay. Any other question?
Yeah, first I apologize for my English, it's not so good, but well, I think Firefox is amazing. And well, my question is, some people resist to use Firefox because some popular applications are not there yet, like WhatsApp or Spotify. What are you doing about that, and how are you working on that?
Yeah, so first, your English is really good, so no worries. And keep in mind that it's not my first language, so no worries at all about it. Thanks. Yeah, I really like Firefox OS too. So the question about the applications missing. When it comes to WhatsApp, we have an application called Connect 2A that do the exact same thing. So you're not like emulating WhatsApp, but you can connect to WhatsApp using that application. So you're still going to be able to talk to your friend, send IM to your friend. So it's like having the official WhatsApp application. When it comes to other applications like Spotify or maybe other applications missing, keep in mind that we're working really hard to try to get the application that people want that are missing on the platform. It's not always easy when it's a new platform to try to get those people on board, but we have most of the application that people are looking. So that gives us, I would say, some really huge credibility because we're still a new platform, but when you look in the marketplace, you find most of the application that you're looking for. And because of that, that helps us to get the applications missing right now. So what I would suggest is that if there is any application that you're looking for that are missing on a platform, and that will be a game changer for you. Like you said, Spotify, say, oh no, I'm not going to use Firefox OS because I use Spotify like every day. So it's not a platform for me. Feel free to tweet us. Feel free to let us know, because the more people will ask for those applications, the bigger force that will give us to go talk to those businesses to let them know that, hey, people want those applications, and we have many users, and those people want those. So that will give us some meat to have those discussions with people. But like, if I have to say only one thing, because it's going to go crazy with the translation, like just translate one thing, we're working hard to get the applications missing. But I'm really confident that we have most of the application that users need. Was it better? Or you can repeat everything. I can talk for a long time.
Esa pregunta sí la entendí. Muy bien. La pregunta era que, bueno, nos quiso dejar claro primero que ya le encanta Mozilla Firefox, y lo segundo era preguntar qué opina él de todas estas aplicaciones que están faltando en la plataforma, como WhatsApp, Spotify. Nos comentaba Frédéric que WhatsApp ya es un caso resuelto, ya hay una manera de usarlo en Firefox, y para las otras aplicaciones tipo Spotify sigue siendo, al ser Firefox OS una plataforma nueva aún, se sigue trabajando en ella. Y lo que nos recomienda él es dejar saber al equipo de Firefox que se sigue trabajando en esta plataforma y dejarlo saber cuáles son las aplicaciones que queremos, porque ellos es lo que están haciendo, están desarrollando esas plataformas para satisfacer a los usuarios. ¿Alguien tiene otra pregunta?
Hi, I have 3 questions. The first one is the info about the workshop. You are going to post it in your blog. The second one is you show 10 devices that have Firefox OS right now in the market. Which one of these devices do you recommend like the best device to use? And the other thing is there is an app called OpenWeb that has been like in a month in the market, and it has a lot of integration with the WhatsApp application, and I think it's better than Connect AB.
So you had like 10,000 questions. So I will start with the first one about the workshop. So I'm not going to speak that much in the workshop. I'm going to do a small presentation. I'm going to record that like 15-minute presentation. Those slides are going to be online, but it's going to be mostly a demo about how to use the developer tools and how to debug your application. So just a quick introduction about how to start to work on your Firefox OS application. So that will be on my blog. Because the rest of the workshop is kind of informal, more of a hackathon than a workshop, so the rest won't be published because that's going to be just people working on their application. But I can maybe record people working on their application and put this on my blog. No, but so this is the first question. The second question was about which devices kind I prefer is the best out there. This is a tricky question because I like most of the devices we have right now, but I would say for a developer, the Flame device is a really good one because it's a little more high-end, so it's a little more expensive, but it's really good if you want to use it day-to-day as a user, and pretty good if you want to use it as a developer because you can emulate lower memory on that device. So you can change the memory, memory limitation on that device to emulate lower device. So you're going to be able to test your application on something like a Flame, but be able to test your application for devices that are more low-entry devices. So, and this, what I like is that you can buy that devices from anywhere in the world, and it's not the case with all the devices. So the Flame device is pretty good. Just look for a Flame device on, I think it's iSbuying, that sells that device. It's a really good one. And the third question was about the open, well, I have a good memory, yeah? About the open web application that is better than connect to that help us to connect to WhatsApp. Okay, I cannot answer that question because I don't know that application. Actually, I just started to use WhatsApp like 1 or 2 months ago because it's not quite popular yet in Canada. But I used it. I started to use it when I came to Mexico because I was talking to people like, send me email or send me an SMS. I was like, what? You're not using WhatsApp? So because of you, I started to use WhatsApp. So I don't know. Short answer, I don't know. Oh, I just forgot about you. You're going to kill yourself. So I don't know that application, but if you can, maybe just send me an email or connect with me on WhatsApp. You just let me know the name, and I'm gonna check with the marketing and engineering team to see if they're working with them, if they already talked to them, to see what's happening.
Don't worry, Fred. I'll just take the main idea.
No, you need to repeat everything.
Okay, la segunda pregunta era el dispositivo favorito. El dispositivo que él prefiere sobre los demás de Firefox. La respuesta era Flame, your device, Flame.
Yeah, the Flame device.
The Flame device. Esto porque puedes emular dispositivos con más baja memoria y te permite un mejor resultado al momento de desarrollar. Entonces, ese es el resultado a la segunda pregunta. La tercera pregunta era qué opina de la integración web de WhatsApp. Nos comenta que no la conoce mucho, que hace apenas recientemente 2 meses empezó a usar WhatsApp debido a que por ahí querían llegar muchas dudas. ¿Me recuerdas cuál era la primera pregunta? Claro. La información del taller era la primera pregunta, ¿dónde le iba a poner? Nos comenta que la presentación que va a hacer al principio del taller la va a poner en su blog y para el contenido del taller es preferible que estén ahí. Pero sí, la información va a estar en su blog. No sé si tenemos tiempo para más preguntas.
I have a request for you. I saw many people who took pictures. So if there is like a picture you really like where I don't look too bad, send me one of those pictures by email, because when I'm going to do the blog post to put the slides online, I would like to use one of those pictures. And maybe not just pictures of me, but if you took pictures of everyone or just pictures of me or whatever, just something that would be nice that I can put on a blog post, please send me an email if you want me to use those.
Quiere las fotos, ¿eh? Quiere las fotos de todos y de él. Donde se vea bien nada más.
I don't like when people are laughing
Just
and they look at me.
Yes, you want the pictures, but just the good ones.
Yeah.
Good morning. Just one thing. Could you put again the slide with the links of? Yes.
There we go. So for the resources, actually the link for the app manager is there. Those are all case sensitive. So respect the lower case and the capitals. So it's just some links. But as I said, everything will be on my blog. Any other question, comment, insult?
Esas páginas, un comentario nada más. Esas páginas nos dice que son sensibles a las mayúsculas, entonces respeten las mayúsculas y todo va a estar bien. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Good morning. My name is René. 2 years ago, I was visiting the Mozilla page from Mexico, and that date they was offering some workshops, and they were making some kind of casting to select some people to these workshops. And later I sent some emails to get some information, but I didn't get some answer. And my question is if Mozilla in Mexico is going to plan to give these workshops on the next month or next years.
So basically the question is that, is there any workshop plan in Mexico, like in next month or during the next year? Right now, I don't know about any workshops planned for Mexico yet. We did one like 3 or 4 months, no, maybe more, maybe 5 or 6 months ago in, and bear with me, Guadalajara. Yeah, was good? Okay. Pretend it was good. So we did a workshop a couple of months there. There's 2 things when it comes to doing workshops in a place, just so you know. There's people like me, evangelists on the team. We're only 4 evangelists to cover the world. So we have a lot on our plate, so it's not always easy for us to do many workshops. But you can make a request. So if you want to organize something, or if you want us to create a workshop here, to do a workshop here, send me an email again, and I will send you the link to make a request, to request evangelist. Oh, good. To request an evangelist. But there is also the local community. So there is people we call Mozillians, either part of the paid staff like me, or volunteers, and there is many volunteers in Mexico around Mozilla. I don't know if there is some here that were supposed to be there. They're still sleeping, maybe. But you can also see with those people, because they're really knowledgeable about Firefox OS, they would be nice people to do a workshop too. So the answer, there is no workshop plan, but send me an email if you want to do something with us, and we'll see if it's something possible. But I just cannot promise you that it may or may not happen.
La pregunta era si próximamente va a haber talleres para Firefox OS aquí en México. La respuesta de Frédéric es que no lo sabe a ciencia cierta. Sin embargo, ustedes pueden tomar la iniciativa y enviar correo para registrar que ustedes quieren un workshop y de esa manera se puede desarrollar. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
No.
Well, my question is that I have one device, one file, and I don't have copy and paste, but I don't know why, or I can use it.
Yeah, so the question is like, there's no copy and paste. I know. I know. It seems like an easy function to add, but it's quite complex to add copy and paste. And I don't know for you that are a little bit older, like I don't know if you remember, but with the first iOS phone, they didn't have copy and paste. With the first Windows phone, they didn't have copy and paste for months, year, because when that's going to be there. But I hear you. Like it's annoying.
La pregunta es, nuestra compañera tiene un dispositivo Firefox y al momento no tiene el copia y pega. Y pues la respuesta de Frédéric es que pues se sigue desarrollando porque son los primeros meses, es la primera etapa de Firefox OS y es muy molesto para todos, pero ya se está trabajando en él. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Hello. I want to know what is Firefox OS made of. I mean, what is under Mozilla Firefox OS? It is Linux or some kind of core, a kernel, special kernel made.
Yeah. So like the architecture of Firefox OS is we use the Gunk Linux kernel. So this is the same kernel that is used for Android phones. On top of that, if you compare to Android phone, we remove all the vendor API layers that we does not need. But on top of the Gunk, we had Gecko. Gecko is our engine that makes Firefox works, that do the interpretation for all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And on top of that, we have the UI called Gaia, and everything that you see, everything that is visual, every function of the OS is made with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So there is three layer. The Gunk Linux kernel, Gecko, and Gaia, that is the visual part of the OS. So really simple, and it's kind of the reason why it's so fast using web technology on really low-end devices.
Okay. La pregunta era ¿qué hay debajo de Firefox OS? La respuesta de Frédéric. Firefox OS viene en 3 niveles. En el primer nivel tenemos un kernel de Linux, en el segundo nivel tenemos
done. It's not a phone that is available anymore, but still a great phone. It was a developer preview. That was the first device that we had created with a local company in Spain, but still a good idea to, still a good phone to see how Firefox OS is working. Any other question? Oh, maybe you want to, yeah, sorry. I'm not used to this.
Me neither. Bueno, nos comentaba Fred que el dispositivo que nos mencionaba hace un momento, el Firefox.
Ok. Tengo un dispositivo Android, por ejemplo. ¿Qué necesito hacer para ejecutar una aplicación con Firefox? ¿O qué necesito hacer para incluir Firefox en esa plataforma?
I nearly understood, but go ahead. So actually what you can do right now with your Android device, if you install Firefox, you're going to have the Firefox Marketplace, and you're going to be able to install those Firefox OS applications to your Android device. talking about Android, it's not related to the question, but that may interest you right now because Firefox OS is it's open source, it's out there, it's mostly done to work on those devices that we have right now. But you can install Firefox OS on Android device because we use the same kind of architecture that Android devices. It's not click and run. It's not a plug and play. You're going to need to build Firefox OS, you're going to be able to install this. It's not super easy, but if you're a little bit technical savvy, you're going to be able to install Firefox OS on some Android devices. So if you want to test it without having to buy a specific Firefox OS device, you're going to be able to do it.
La respuesta es, además de las aplicaciones de Firefox, se puede instalar el sistema operativo Firefox OS en un celular Android, pero no es un procedimiento sencillo, se puede, es más recomendable en un dispositivo Firefox, pero si se intenta va a poder. ¿Respondió tu pregunta?
¿Cuáles son los dispositivos Firefox? Digamos, el mercado está dominado por Android, iOS y Windows. Entonces, Firefox, ¿cuáles son esos dispositivos en los que pueden empezar?
The Firefox devices available in the market, and why we made Firefox OS? Because there's available. Okay, so the question was which devices are available in the market. So I've shown a couple of those devices before. Right now in Mexico, you have the Alcatel One Touch Fire, you have the ZTE OpenC, and you have another device that I need to double check. But right now, we have a little more than 10 devices out there coming from LG, coming from Huawei, coming from ZTE, coming from Alcatel. There is the Flame, and there is the NTEX Cloud FX that we just launched in India. So most of them, they're specific to different countries, different location. But when it comes to the Flame, this is the one device that you can buy online and it will ship everywhere. There is the ZTE OpenC. I'm not sure if they shipped in Mexico, but I know they shipped in Canada and in the US. So they may ship in Mexico also. So those are the devices available right now. But more devices will come soon, and we're going to have more devices that not going to be also just smartphone. Because Firefox OS, our main goal was to create OS that will work well on the smartphone to really help people that don't have access to the internet to have an inexpensive way to have access to the internet. But Alcatel, Foxconn, they're working on tablets. So there is already a tablet available right now, but it's only for developers. It's really a developer preview. We have Panasonic working on a TV using Firefox OS. So there is many other type of hardware that we will see at some point, and new phones also.
No recuerdo el nombre de los modelos. Ahorita repetimos los tres más populares aquí en México, pero esos son los dispositivos. Nos dice que podemos adquirirlos todos por internet. Hay dispositivos a lo mejor que ahorita nada más están disponibles en la India, pero de igual manera por medio de internet podemos adquirir estos dispositivos. Could you remind me the name of the three main devices?
In Mexico, there's the ZTE OpenC, the Alcatel One Touch Fire.
El Alcatel One Touch Fire, que me parece que es un blanco que ya conocíamos.
The ZTE OpenC.
El CTE, el ZT, CT.
ZTE,
ZT. ZTE.
ZTE OpenC.
OpenC.
Actually, that's going to be the same name. That's going to be the English name if it's available here. So remember ZTE OpenC. Yeah. And
ZTE.
I need to.
ZTE.
Yeah, I need to double check for the third devices available here. I'm not sure.
Bueno, y esos son los dos dispositivos principales aquí en México al momento. Bueno, tenemos tiempo para una pregunta más. ¿Alguien quiere hacer la última pregunta? Anímense. Antes del taller.
And also, what you can do is go on mozilla.org /Firefox-OS-devices, and you're going to see, so the third device available in Mexico is the YWE Y302. The YWE, yeah, this one.
Ese, exacto. Ese es el tercer dispositivo aquí en México. Bueno, si no hay más preguntas, damos por terminada esta conferencia. Quisiera darle de nuevo las gracias a Frédéric por estar aquí con nosotros y compartir esta presentación con nosotros, y el taller quedan más que invitados todos de nuevo. Una vez más, bienvenidos al Congreso Universitario Móvil 2014, y quisiera que le diéramos un fuerte aplauso a Frédéric.